Blog Talk Radio. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Medlock Post radio show. This is where we educate, entertain, enlighten, and empower. The views and opinions on the Medlock Post radio show are those of the host and guests. They are not necessarily the views and opinions of Blog Talk Radio, Spreaker.com, its corporations, affiliates, or any other podcast streaming services. Thank you for joining the show today, and here is your host, Richard G. Medlock.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is your host, Richard G. Medlock, and we're sitting in the Medlock Post studios today. It is October 5th, 2022, and today's episode is Hispanic Heritage Month. Yes, a special program, very special. But before we get into that, our thoughts and prayers go out to the family of Loretta Lynn, a country icon, a country music icon. If you've never listened to her music, go listen. She was one of the pioneers for women in country music and was greatly loved and admired and appreciated in her time that she gave in her efforts. Also, Hurricane Ian, we're still feeling the effects in Florida and the coast of South Carolina and other states. But I want to remind you, if you are listening and you have damaged property from Ian, or you know of family members or friends, get this number to them, 1-800-451-1954. I'll repeat that again, 1-800-451-1954. That is the Crisis Cleanup.org number. That is a national database. That number is just set up for Hurricane Ian people that have been received damage. You call them up, give them your address, what happened to your property, what work needs to be done, and they will put you in that database. When volunteer organizations or others go out to your area, they will go to that database and see where they need to go to help people. So 1-800-451-1954. Our purpose at the Medlock Post is to educate, enlighten, and empower our listeners to learn how to be better individuals and better citizens. That is why we have special programs like today's to focus our learning to understand more fully others' beliefs and cultures that cross our paths. Understanding others is a big key in maintaining a society built on kindness, love for others, and respect, even respect of our differences. And to help us with today's education is the creative director of Hispanic Alliance, Andrew Skinner. And Andrew, if my fingers would work, I'd unmute you. So Andrew, welcome to the Medlock Post.
Hi, Richard. Thanks for having me.
Great. Have you ever listened to Loretta Lynn?
I have, actually.
Good.
I can't say that she's in my top most played artist on Spotify, but I was fortunate enough to grow up in Tennessee, and there's some great history of Southern music in the state of Tennessee, and so that was part of my upbringing for sure.
Well, good. All right, you see, folks, we find common ground everywhere we go, right? Just talk. All right. So this month, it started September 15th, goes through October 15th, is National Hispanic Heritage Month. And the month time started in 1988 when Ronald Reagan passed a bill to make it official and to make it from a week to a month. Lyndon Johnson did that in 1968 for a week long, and then it has been expanded. Let me read this real quick. Hispanic Heritage Month is an annual celebration of the history and culture of the U.S., Latinx, and Hispanic communities. The event, which spans from September 15th to October 15th, commemorates how those communities have influenced and contributed to American society at large. The term Hispanic or Latino, or the more recent term Latinx, refers to a person's culture or origin, regardless of race. So, Andrew, how important is that statement I just read to your work with Hispanic Alliance?
I think it's hugely important to our work from the Hispanic Alliance, from the standpoint of it's hard to fit individuals in a box, right? Whether they identify as Hispanic, Latino, Latina, or Latinx. Everybody has a background, right? Everybody has a history. It's important to honor those differences, right? As you were talking about in your opening, which I love, and treat everybody with kindness and love for others, and understanding the differences. The differences are awesome. It's great to recognize these things, but more than that, we all share a common humanity, right?
Right.
And this for me is what kind of Hispanic Heritage Month is all about, is celebrating our past, our ancestry, but more than that, the contributions of these individuals and what they do to bring about a brighter future for us all. Hispanic and Latinx Americans are making wonderful contributions across the country.
And they have been for many, many years. And I like the word that you use, and I might add it to I put understanding others. And we all have differences, and you mentioned that. And I think of yourself, ladies and gentlemen, as a parent. Most of you are parents. And you can look at your children, whether you have one, two, or more. One doesn't kind of fit in this, but you do need to understand that one. But each child is different. I look back, my brother and I were like night and day. We were so different. And people had a hard time believing we were even brothers. We were so different. We were 3 years apart. And even twins have differences. And I think if we look at society as being their parent and understanding each one as an individual or a sovereign, and try to understand that. I think when I train teachers, I tried to help them understand that. You can't put all of your class into a box. Each student learns differently, learns at a different pace, and you need to understand that. You need to adjust to that. You don't try to get 25 students to adjust to you. So, Andrew, thank you for bringing that up. Did you have anything to add about what I just said?
Absolutely. It's funny you mentioned that you and your brother. I'm one of two, and my brother and I are about 16 months apart. And actually today is my birthday. I'm 37. He's 38. And
well, happy birthday.
We. Thank you, sir. We've lived completely different lives. He's had a more of a, I'll say, traditional, cookie cutter kind of life. He got married right out of college and has a couple of young girls himself, and he doesn't have a white picket fence, but his life looks vastly different than mine. And when it comes to our work at the Hispanic Alliance, that same tact that you were talking about with education and in schools is hugely important to our work. I think that's one of the reasons our work of connecting Hispanic individuals in the community to the resources they need is because we treat each person as an individual. We have a resource phone line that people can call in if they're new to the area and they need to be connected to resources in education, health, legal services, or maybe some financial help. We have somebody on the other line that answers the phone in Spanish, speaks the language, and gets to know a little bit more about that person, what it is that they're seeking, and then how the Hispanic Alliance can facilitate their connection to whatever service they need to find a good quality of life. Because in the end, that's the goal of the Hispanic Alliance, is as Hispanic and Latinx individuals, come to our community, come to our country. They face obstacles sometimes towards achieving success, right? And success for individuals looks different. And so we talk to each person and find out more information about what it is that they're seeking and to facilitate that connection so they can have the same opportunities to success that everybody wants, everybody deserves. And as a society, this is our job, is to make sure that there is equitable access to prosperity in our country.
It's helping them learn the system, how things operate here. They came here for many, many different reasons, each one individual reason, whether it was just to better the lives of their family or to escape political persecution, even religious persecution. They come here wanting a better life. And we have to help them understand how to do that. And that's what organizations like the Hispanic Alliance, and you have organizations like yours around the country that are trying to do the same thing. I've worked with World Relief here in this area. They help refugees mostly from the Ukraine for many, many years come in because of political persecution there, and with Lutheran services. But it's also, I've had a couple of people on the program, Andrew, that escaped Cuba and escaped Hungary when communist regimes. And these are fascinating stories to help us understand how good we have it in America. So how do you, as an organization, help your new I'm looking for a word, people that come into your organization, how do you educate them on what is here for them, what to become great, I guess is a good way to put it.
I like that. It's a really good question. I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. We have basically it's a lengthy document, and it is a resource guide of available services here in the upstate of South Carolina, Greenville County, and the surrounding 10 counties of the upstate, which has been worked on. It's a living, breathing document, right? It has all the partner organizations here in those 10 counties that we've developed relationships with over our 12 years of existence here in South Carolina. Because for me, this is where the greatest impact comes, so that individual, these immigrants have, as you put it, the opportunity to become great, right?
Yes.
If they're already in a place economically or culturally that they're happy with, maybe our job is to help increase that mobility. Drive a little bit more of upward prosperity, I'll say. And so. For us at the Hispanic Alliance, this is where the greatest effect comes for an individual, right, or for a group of individuals, a community. It's this collaborative effort that we are kind of the middleman for. We have, I want to say there's probably over 50 pages of information available for service providers here in South Carolina. And these service providers are bilingual, right? So that's another huge component of developing relationships with the individual, is to be able to connect these people to services that are gonna gain their trust, right? And
right.
Overcoming the language barrier is a huge win when you're trying to provide culturally appropriate services to these individuals. And this might be something as simple as finding a doctor that has a nurse practitioner in the office that can speak Spanish, or it might be something more complex like navigating the path to citizenship. Which I don't want to go down that path too hard, because that's another beast altogether.
Yes.
These are the services that we try to help people, start the first steps on. And these are the things that we've identified as I'll say benchmarks to gaining prosperity in our country.
I know that in our area, and I'm sure it's around the country. Excuse me. At doctors' offices, they a lot of times have translators available. They don't need them all day long, or they're just there, that if a patient comes in that has a language barrier, they have someone on site they can come in and translate for the doctor if the doctor is not bilingual. So there's a lot of outreach in a lot of areas. One of the organizations that I've worked with in the upstate is Unity Health on Main Street, which is basically a Hispanic medical clinic, but also does counseling and also tutoring for children that can speak English very well, are pretty good because they go to school, but the parents don't. So they help provide tutors. Do you do something like that?
So we are not a direct service provider in the traditional sense of a nonprofit, because our goal is never to duplicate services. I love that you brought up Unity Health on Main. They are one of the service providers in that living, breathing resource guide document. I say that. However, we do have one program. It's called the Student Dreamers Alliance, and it was started about 6 years ago. We're about to start our 6th cohort of this It's a leadership accelerator for high school students. Richard, I love that you recognize and are aware of the fact that a lot of times the students, English may be a second language for them. They may grow up in a household where Spanish is the forerunner, the language that is spoken most of the time. But at least the high school or middle-aged kids, they can speak English well enough, right? They can converse, they can get by. So that's an awesome entry point for our organization to reach the families of these individuals as well, where the kids can be an asset to help parents or extended family members learn what resources are available. If I could, just for a minute, to talk about the Student Dreamers Alliance, it's a pretty awesome fellowship program that was started by our executive director, Adela Mendoza. It is geared to produce the next generation of Hispanic leaders in South Carolina. So we have identified 2 schools here in Greenville that have a higher Hispanic population on average, the Berea High School and Carolina High School. And we identify students apply to be in this program. It's 6 months long, one weekday out of each month. They come to our seminars, and they are briefed on the issues and the issues facing not only the Hispanic and Latinx community, but really just our society as a whole. And this is an eye-opening experience for these kids. Honestly, Richard, it'd be an eye-opening experience for me to go through the program. You know,
probably
learn
so.
About learn about the issues facing our society and what can be done to tackle these issues.
They need to listen.
This way,
one of your seminars, they need to listen to my radio show and get a lot of information about issues of today. So
I love that idea. The goal, right? And this is the goal of SDA, Student Dreamers Alliance, is to better prepare these young individuals so that our future becomes brighter, right? And when I say our future, it's not just the future for the Hispanic and Latinx community, but it's the future of our country, of our society.
Because this is their country now. This is where they live, and this is where they want to belong. So they need to, like every citizen should, learn our responsibilities in connection to the Constitution, and because there are responsibilities there. And I love the fact, and I was aware of that program, but not as extensive as you're explaining, but I love the program because it's instilling in these youth, number one, who they are, their heritage, which everybody's heritage is important, no matter who you are. There's something to learn there. But helping them understand there are challenges out here, and you have a responsibility to help face those challenges. I love that. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure there's programs like this all over the country within the Hispanic community. This sounds like something they need to do for every student in high school and middle school.
Yeah, you read my mind. It is absolutely. I wish that there was something in Knoxville, Tennessee, where I grew up, that better prepared me for issues facing society. Right? I feel like I would have become more familiar with, what it means to be an adult American in a community. You know, what these responsibilities are. What I can do to make a difference in my community, not only for myself, but for my family and for future generations as well.
Well, and I think it's important. Let me find this one quote. This is from President George H.W. Bush, September 14th, 1989. He was president at this time. Reagan had just left office, and he was opening up. As a matter of fact, he was a co-sponsor of the original bill in 1968. And he made this quote, "Not all of the contributions made by Hispanic Americans to our society are so visible or so widely celebrated. However, Hispanic Americans have enriched our nation beyond measure with the quiet strength of closely knit families and proud communities," unquote. Now, there are other quotes and other things. They always refer to, and I see it in my friends that are Hispanic. Every one of them has a close-knit family. Andrew, how important is that and their faith to the Hispanic communities?
Oh, it's pivotal, right? You mentioned earlier about some of the reasons why people immigrate to our country, and that is a majority reason or influence for why people come to America. They see the potential for higher economic earning, and that they can provide a little bit more for families, right? And whether those families come with them to America or they stay behind and whatever their country of origin is, a lot of the times that's a driving motivation. This month for Hispanic Heritage Month, one of the ways the Hispanic Alliance has chosen to celebrate is to identify four individuals here in Greenville that have done some outstanding work in our community. So I got the privilege of jumping on calls with these individuals and doing a little bit of research, just kind of an interview like you and I are doing right now. I got to talk with them, got to get to know them, and ask them a few questions about what it means to be Hispanic. And get to know their history and their stories. It's been a privilege to get to do. It was eye-opening for sure for me to learn a little bit more about Hispanic culture. But the running theme through these four interviews, and every one of them, starting with the 21-year-old young lady who's a student at University of South Carolina, to an entrepreneur who runs a publication here in South Carolina. Every one of them stated how important it was that their family stayed at the center of the things that they do, whether that's mom and dad providing opportunities for them. And so I want to make mom and dad to graduate college and go on to become a lawyer here in the state of South Carolina to change the laws on immigration, or inviting family and community over for a Sunday lunch and sitting down, speaking in Spanish, eating Hispanic or Latinx flavor food. These are the important things to the Hispanic and Latinx community. It centers around family. It centers around people, and I love it. I honestly, I love my country. I love my community. I kind of wish that I had a little bit more of that in my own life. Right? It's not. I've heard in other cultures they don't ask what did you eat for dinner last night. It's who did you eat dinner with. And yeah. For me, I see a little bit of that in these other cultures that is awesome and should absolutely be celebrated.
So when we look at the Hispanic community, they can set some examples for some of the rest of us because of their strong culture as a family and their faith. Every Hispanic I've ever known, briefly or whatever, has a strong faith in a God, and that drives them, that and their family, those two things. And I think, America, families are our strength. So here come these beautiful people from other countries, and they're coming here and bringing their strength of family and faith to our society. And we should recognize that, and we should thank them for that. What's your comments about that?
I feel like you've said it very well, sir. I love it's learning, right? Learning from one another's and learning from other cultures is, I mean, it's how our country started, right? We were a melting pot of individuals from so many different societies around the world, really, and in that they all came together, they learned from one another, and built what we have the privilege to live in today as a country. And so why wouldn't we continue doing what worked so well in the very beginning? The purpose that comes from having family and faith in a person's life is absolutely immeasurable. Without that purpose, without that reason to live, I would imagine I fortunately have both of those things, right? And
right.
that gives me a driving force to contribute to my community and to make the lives of those people around me better as well. And there's still so much that I can learn and am learning from the Hispanic community members that I've gotten to know over the past year or so.
They're beautiful people, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I know time's running short for you. You've got to run off to do a television interview?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so I want to ask you, it might be kind of a loaded question here. I don't know if you have an answer for it or not, but there's a lot of challenges with this open border on our southern border that's wide open, and a lot of immigrants are coming through. What kind of challenges has that created for you at your organization, for the Hispanics that are here, that came through the system the correct way, with these illegals coming in? Is there any way you can address that issue?
So I can talk about it to a certain standpoint, but I will also respect the boundaries of the Hispanic Alliance, and what I mean by that is to today's date, to the present moment, we've seen our position as an organization to not necessarily be an all-out advocate in the political arena, if that makes sense.
Okay.
You know, we're not without an opinion. However, we are. Our job as an organization has been always to deal with the individuals who are here and give them the best chance for prosperity that we can. And we have been watching, we have been listening, and really waiting for the best time, Richard, to play, if we have a part, our role in the public advocacy arena. Does that make sense?
Yes, and that's probably the answer that's probably what I expected, because it is a hot issue, and it is causing challenges with a lot of people. But the one thing I see is some people are putting all Hispanics into that category, and that's the sad thing that I hate to see. So, all right,
absolutely. I can agree with that, and if I could, there is, I'll say, like, kind of one positive about it, right? And it comes from one of the interviews I got to do with Hispanic Heritage Month. There was the lady, the entrepreneur, actually, that came here in the middle 2000s legally, and when she showed up in Greenville, you know, it was a little bit isolating for her. You know, she was one of a small number to speak Spanish, and the community was a little bit more close and tight knit. But now, as the Hispanic population is one of the fastest growing in our country, you know, there are so many more avenues of connections for these individuals on a personal level, and that just comes with the increased frequency of people entering our country.
Right.
As far as the legal or illegal, I'm going to reserve comment for a later date if I can.
Well, I look at this, and I know for our church, we help anybody no matter what. But I was looking, my question was, what kind of challenges does it present? And I think you've answered that. And going,
the biggest challenge is just the volume, right?
Right.
How can we increase our capacity to make sure that those who are here, like your church does, have that same opportunity? Because again, at the end of the day, we're humans, right? And all humans, from the Hispanic Alliance point of view, deserve opportunity and equal access to a quality of life.
Oh, absolutely. I know we wrap this thing up. I want to read a quote from Ronald Reagan from September 13th, 1988, when he was kicking off the month-long, that was the first month-long. He says, yes, we gather to salute the Hispanic heritage. It's not only the heritage of these 19.4 million Americans of Spanish-speaking descent, it's part of my heritage too, and my family's heritage, and the heritage of every American as well. We have all been enriched by the contributions of Hispanics in every walk of American life. The Hispanic heritage is many and many things. It is a abrazo, a hearty and heartfelt greeting that binds the community together. And it's the Iglesia, if I pronounce something wrong, correct me. It's the Iglesia, a place of contemplation and confession and communion with God. It's the Escuela, where children learn to understand the world around them. And most of all, it's the Casa, the almost mystical center of daily life, where grandparents and parents and children and grandchildren all come together in the familia. As the great poet Octavia Paz has said, quote, in Hispanic morals, the true protagonist is the family, unquote. Well, there's a special intimacy here and a sense of continuity between past and future that is more precious than rubles, unquote. President Reagan. Your comments on that, and then I think you have to scoot off.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that quote with me. That's actually the first time that I've heard it, and I also really appreciate your pronunciation. I by no means am a scholar in the Spanish language, but for me it sounded really good.
Thank you.
No problem. For the quote. I love that this has been recognized at a national level, right? That our country is looking at the contributions of these individuals and what's important to them as a learning source, like you and I have talked about already. When that was in 1988, is that correct?
Yes.
Back then, I think you said 18 million people. Today, the population is somewhere around 62 million people.
Yeah, it was 19.4.
19.4.
Yeah, I knew that was wrong, but I'm reading his quote, folks.
So this to me, just like that, those numbers illustrate the magnitude of the impact that these communities, that these people have on our daily life, and whether that's family, faith, economic prosperity, or economic development, because the Hispanic community has a huge entrepreneurial spirit about it, or other areas of our life, like culture. So much music, so much art. So much of our food that we eat nowadays has been culturally inspired by these vibrant and diverse communities that have made their way here to our country. And so to me, it really warms my heart that as a country, nationally it's happening, and then here locally as well, right? We at the Hispanic Alliance has worked with have worked with city municipalities from Mount Pleasant down on the coast all the way up to Anderson or Walhalla and the opposite side of the state, to have local leaders do the exact same thing that Ronald Reagan was doing and when he made that statement. And this is just recognizing from a government level the contributions of these communities, and also making a commitment as a government, as a society, to work together with organizations like the Hispanic Alliance to provide opportunity to these people. It warms my heart to see that happening.
We all have to remember, and you've heard me say this on the show before, ladies and gentlemen, we are all sons and daughters of the same God. And we should look at everybody like that and everybody's potential. Look at everybody's potential. And I want to remind everybody, Monday is Columbus Day. I'm going to do a special program about Columbus Day. Where was he from? Spain. He falls in to this category, folks. A lot of people forget that. He falls into that. So, they're trying to change it to Indigenous Peoples Day or whatever it is. But Columbus was from Spain. And he had the blessing of the Queen. And voila, then we have America. And, yeah, there were people here when he got here, but he found them. So, Andrew, please tell Adela and Deborah hello for me next time you see them. I will send you a link to this program that you can play it. You can post it on your website, whatever you want to do with it. Burn it, throw it away, do sound bites, whatever you want to do. But thank you so much for being here. I hope to be able to have you and maybe Adela and Deborah on at other times on a constant basis to talk about the good works that your organization, Hispanic Alliance, is doing, and also other Hispanic organizations around the country. Reach out to them, ladies and gentlemen. They can use your support and your help. There's always something that you can go do in America to help other people. And this is one of them, especially if you're bilingual. And that helps. I'm not bilingual. I just lucked out today on my pronunciation. So, Andrew, thank you. Have a good interview with the TV station. Which one, so I can watch tonight?
It is WSPA.
Okay, Channel 7. Okay, good enough. Andrew,
yes,
thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Have a good interview. Have a great day, and good luck and best of luck, and may God bless you and your organization and what you're doing, and bless the people that you're serving. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, that was Andrew Skinner with Hispanic Alliance, giving us a good insight into a culture, again, that we need to respect. Now, we complain about the southern border and everything that's going on down there, but we have to remember a lot of these people are trying to escape tough times and political persecution, and we have to remember that. Now, you heard my announcement on Monday is Columbus Day. I think the federal government is closed that day. But we're going to do a special on Columbus Day. Let's see if I can pronounce this right. Dia de la Raza Day. That's Spanish. I'm sure I butchered that. And that's one of the reasons. There were so many things. Let me give you some of the reasons. September 15th to October 15th. The day of September 15th is significant because it is the anniversary of independence of Latin American countries Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. In addition, Mexico and Chile celebrate their independence days on September 16th and September 18th, respectively. and then, of course, Columbus Day. So there's a lot of history in this month that we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. Folks, go online, go to history.com. There's another one, Hispanic Outlook. Is one. I'm looking for my links here, folks. Hispanic Outlook. Where to go? I got my pages all shuffled. I did not follow in order one bit today. Alrighty, the Hispanic Heritage Month.gov, Hispanic Outlook. You can go to history.com/Hispanic Heritage Month and get all kind of information. Learn, folks. Learn. Expand your box. Expand what's your zone. Reach out to these people. I know we're doing a lot of work in my community right now, and most of the crews are Hispanic, and most of them cannot speak English. Hardly, they understand a couple of words, but you can't carry on a conversation with them. That's why I have those translation apps on my phone. I'll turn it on, and we can talk to each other and find out. I mean, I've got 2 neighbors in my neighborhood. They're from Puerto Rico. And I love going by their houses when they're cooking. It's wonderful. And I've told them, I said, I want that recipe. It smells so good. I want that recipe. And then she was joking one day. She said, "Oh, that's just our laundry." And we all just cracked up and laughed. But folks, reach out to people. If they don't want to talk to you, that's fine. But reach out to them. Be friendly. I know you've heard me. I talk about this illegal immigration. However, it's really putting a hardship not only on our country, but others that are trying to come here correctly, and there is a way to do it. But our government at this time is not obeying one immigration law that is on the books. They're totally ignoring every one of them. And that's a disservice to everybody on both sides. And you heard Andrew, they're just overwhelmed right now. The numbers are astronomical. And at some point, let's hope not, but everything could just break down. And we don't want that. We want order. But what's the one word I keep throwing out that the Democratic Marxists like? Chaos. Chaos, division, fear, hatred, and violence. That's what they like to do. All right. Andrew did a great job. I appreciate the things that he said, the insights that he gave us into the Hispanic Latinx. I even pronounced that wrong to start with. Latinx society. And remember, that refers to where people came from and their cultures, not their race. I remember I was teaching a class years ago, probably about 15 years ago. And there were several Hispanics in the class. And, matter of fact, I had a translator there for some of them. And their books were in Spanish. And I was teaching from the English version. But there were a couple of translators there for those that needed the help. And I was training them in a specific thing. And so I mentioned, I looked at the one lady and I says, could you tell us a little bit about your Hispanic heritage? And she looked at me and she said, I'm not Hispanic, I'm a Spaniard. I'm from Spain. And I says, you know what? Thanks for correcting me. I did not know that. And so and the others were nodding in agreement. Hey, she's a Spaniard. We're Hispanic. It was really interesting, and it was a learning experience for all of us. And we became friends. She was a wonderful teacher. and I'm not sure what happened to her, but they'd only been in the United States for about a year. Her husband got a job here. That's what it was. Her husband got a job here. They moved from Spain, and she wanted to do volunteer work. This was through the Red Cross. So beautiful people. Beautiful people. Get to know them. They're hard workers. They really are. Let's talk a little bit about the economy. Numbers keep coming in that are showing a slowdown in the economy. Inflation's going up. They keep trying to tell us that inflation's over with, that it's slowing down. In August, ladies and gentlemen, food prices went up 13.5%. No, we don't have September's numbers yet. That's not a slowdown, folks. That was more than the month before in July. Gas prices are going back up. You have Saudi Arabia and OPEC Plus, the plus sign, includes Russia. They're deciding right now whether they're going to cut back oil production, by 1 million barrels per day. This is after, remember, Joe Biden went over to Saudi Arabia after he was shutting off production and drilling in the United States and went over there. Can you drill more so we'll have oil? And the prince says, no, get out of our country. You're a joke. All right. So then Biden has the Petroleum Strategic Reserve down to about half, about 350 million barrels. It started at about 725 million barrels. He's just been pulling out 1 million a day, been selling it to China, our worst enemy. And that reserve is getting low. He's shut down all oil drilling on federal lands, and 2 weeks ago, I talked about it on the show, he shut down all the leases and the lease payments on Native American land. And they're going, whoa, wait a minute, we need that income. We need that money coming in from the leases. Even though they're not drilling, they still get paid for the leases. This is inflationary. This is why you're seeing gas prices go back up. The supply is getting shorter. Now, we went from producing 14 million barrels a day. We're now down to 11 million barrels a day. Plus, Biden reached out to Maduro in Venezuela, who was a dictator, kills his own people. They had an election, he lost, and he wouldn't let the guy take over. Trump tried to get that take place. And without military intervention, couldn't help very much. People in Venezuela are starving to death. Their inflation rate's like 500%. I've talked to people that have come from Venezuela, that got out of there, and they say, you can't find food. That's Marxist, folks. And Biden's doing the same thing, or trying to, that Maduro did. Did you see the inflation rate in Turkey? 83%. Their money is crashing. 83%. Then we have the United Nations came out yesterday telling the United States, you need to trying to tell the Fed, you need to stop raising rates, you need to lower them back down, you need to do this, you need to do that, da-da-da-da-da. When did we start taking advice from the United Nations? We don't. We shouldn't. So this globalist influence is seeping in here because that's what the Biden administration is inviting. And you want to hear something that just boiled my blood and a whole bunch of other people yesterday? Did you hear what Biden said about his negotiations with Iran? He said, I am just like Ronald Reagan when he negotiated with Russia, and that's how I'm negotiating with Iran. Biden actually said he's just like Ronald Reagan. Joe Biden is not even a piece of cut toenail off of Joe Biden's Ronald Reagan's toe. He should have compared himself to Jimmy Carter. He's making Jimmy Carter look great at this point. Do you remember? Well, I don't know how many remember. Jimmy Carter, we had a really good relationship, the United States did, with Iran. The Shah of Iran was its ruler. Had a big family. The United States supported him, money, supplies. Also, we had a great relationship with them in the Middle East. They were an ally. Jimmy Carter allowed the opposition to run him over and run him out. They ran off to London. Jimmy Carter wouldn't even let him come to the United States. Now, some of his family, his children, ended up getting here after Reagan took over. But the Shah, he was he was tough on his people. But he had a great thing going in Iran. Iraq had a great thing going with their oil production. But what's his name? Osama, not Osama, but who was the guy? I can't remember now. He had one of the richest oil supplies in the world, and if he just kept pumping it, he could have been another Saudi Arabia, building homes for everybody, schools for everybody, cars for everybody. But no, he wanted to be a dictator. And he went down, he was hung by his people. Well, here's Biden saying, hey, we're dealing with Iran the way that Reagan dealt with Russia. No. Reagan's position was, we win, you lose. United States wins, Russia loses. He didn't even talk to them his first 4 years in office, his first term. He wanted to talk to them in strength. And he built up the military, he built up the economy, and he had strength backing him. So what has Biden done to equal that Ronald Reagan did? Our economy is weak, in a recession. Our military is woke. They can't get recruits. Done just the opposite. And he's given Iran everything they want. Billions and billions and billions of dollars. Hundreds of billions. And the path to having a nuclear weapon, which they're almost there anyway, folks. Speaking of this, I was thinking the other day, you know all these able-bodied men on welfare in America that just do not want to work? Or they grew up in a home that was totally dependent on the government and they know nothing else? Give them that credit. A lot of them, they just don't know any other way. I thought of something the other day. I read this thing or heard this thing about the military. I says, if you're an able-bodied man between 18 and 34, some of you know where I'm going with this, and you're on welfare, you will not go out and get a job, then guess what? You are required to go into the military for minimum 2 years. What do you think? I think it's a good idea myself. I think it's a good idea. All right, folks, we are at the end. It's going to kind of be a short show today. I'm going to save some of this maybe for Monday and Columbus Day, but also when the executive director of American Hispanic Women's Society Association when she's on. I'm going to be calling her when I get off the program, and just see, get her thoughts on some of these things. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for being a listener and supporting us. I appreciate your comments. My email is medlockpost@gmail.com, and you can listen to our podcast on many Spreaker, iHeart, Spotify, etc. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you Friday, or maybe sooner. I'm still in the big planning stage. So have a great day. May God bless you, and may God bless America. And I think let's go out with a little salsa music here to go in line with what we're doing. Take a listen as we go out.